there's substantial evidence of schools with high SFO density that have very high levels of student achievement. And in many cases, their levels of student achievement, and certainly this is the case of the schools we looked at, was above the level of the state and often exceeded the achievements in a lot of more advantaged schools. And I think that's particularly evident there. The schools which someone made reference to before, they're the 8 schools. And you can read that, and it's sort of interest. 6 primary, 2 secondary. In each case, in all 8 of those schools, students on average achieve higher levels of learning outcomes in literacy, numeracy and VCE results in the case of the secondary than schools in the same SFO band. They commonly perform above the mean level of performance in those areas for the state as a whole, and they've done so for a period of time. There was a threshold requirement for being chosen, that it wasn't just something they'd achieved in the last year. It's an interesting thing. Graham and I are not academics, and I must credit Ross as well too. Ross is not here today, he's got another commitment. None of us are academics, and you go through this kind of thing when you're not an academic. You say, 8 schools. Can you really say something meaningful about high-performing, high-disadvantaged schools when you're talking about 8 schools? So we actually did a bit of a search on the web. The first interesting thing of our search was that there's very little studies of that sort. There's hardly anything that's sought to correlate performance to disadvantage in terms of school. There's a lot of stuff that correlates the impact of disadvantage on individual kids, but nothing that actually looks at schools that might be doing something different. But we found 3, I guess, that are of interest, and they gave us a bit more confidence, really. The first was a study by Linda Darling-Hammond and Diane Friedlander. I'm sure you've heard of Linda Darling-Hammond because she gets quoted a lot here. High schools for high equity. 5 schools in the US. It's got to be good. Another study by Shields.
It's actually California.
California. Which I think is a bigger system. It's a bigger system than ours, much, California. So, Shields and Miles leading edge small urban high schools, 9. And my personal favourite, Brinson and Steiner's work on building collective efficacy with 1. So we came to the conclusion that, our kind of insecurity about not being academics was something we could dispense with, that it was definitely a respectable sample. Okay, that's the background. What I want to do is give you a task for maybe 5-10 minutes or so, and it's this. What do you think we found? What do you think made the schools high performing? When I look round, there's an enormous amount of wisdom in the room. I often do the thing, I haven't counted how many people are here. Do you know roughly, Lena? 80. About 80. Well, often what I say is there's about 80, so we can assume that there's a minimum of about 1,600 years of collective wisdom in the room. Hopefully not 1,600 of the same years, 1,600 different years. So there's a lot that you actually know. So what about at the table, spend a short period of time on what you think we found and what made the schools high performing, and we might actually get a few up there and see how they compare to what we found. And then we've got the basis for some conversation. What we'll do is we'll sit them here and we can return to them. I'll just do some abbreviations if that's all right. What else do you think? Okay. Focus on teaching and learning. Which, by the way, I'm pleased to see you've got in the right order and haven't got as learning and teaching. Which I can say that. People in the department have problems saying that. But anything else? Okay. Common goals. Anything else? Okay. accountability. I'm sure people will work out my abbreviations. Anything else? Yep. Yep. Anything else? Okay. Relationships. And let's just take one more, if we got one more. Leadership and culture we'll put. Okay.